Can we talk about how mutual aid under capitalism is indistinguishable from charity? Well, mutual aid is still technically charity. It's just charity done by community organizers or whoever. In certain instances, not. It's just charity without any sort of regulation or regulatory control. That's what it is. And in some instances, it's really good because it goes directly to the people that need it the most and doesn't have to go through the complicated 501c3 procedures that pay executives big salaries and shit like that. All right. Representative Salazar tortures House Democrats. Marxists are part of the Democratic Party.
Tensions are sky high between Russia and the West. Economic.
Wait, Trey Gowdy just straight up is a Fox News commentator now? I thought he was still in Congress. Is he no longer? What the Oh, no, he's not. He's not a representative anymore. Oh, my God. He's literally just a news personality. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Trey Gowdy, famously worse haircut. Someone should mutually aid Trey Gowdy and give him a good haircut for once. What? People saying Trey Gowdy hasn't been a representative for a long time are unaware that he was literally he was a representative in South Carolina's 4th Congressional District from 2011 to 2019.
Sanctions, travel bans, business boycotts have further isolated Moscow from the rest of the world. Putin is looking for allies and may turn to Cuba. Russia claims it invaded Ukraine in part because it did not want weapons from the West pointed at Russia. The U.S. is not likely to allow missiles pointed at our country either, and Cuba is just 90 miles from America. What should and will our response be if Russia and Cuba partner up again? Florida Congresswoman Maria Salazar is the daughter of Cuban refugees and
2019 is 3 years ago, my dog. Dude, time has not passed since the end of 2019. It's just the truth. If you think that, like, we're literally living 2021, 2022, and 2020 part 1, 2020 part 2, 2020 part 3, okay? We're in 2020 part 3 currently, which is just the third part of 2020. Straight up. It has been frozen since 2019. Cuban Missile Crisis, yeah.
Sits on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. She joins us now. Congresswoman, what do we know about the relationship between Russia and Cuba?
I think it's a fantastic question, and it's very timely. Well, Cuba and Russia are enjoying right now the warmest relationship they have had since the fall of the Soviet Union. Last month, Vladimir Putin sent his deputy.
Oh, so bloodthirsty, dude. There is just a brief moment of respite, a brief window for normalizing relationships with a country that we have bullied since its revolution. After we gave all the guns that we possibly could to the dictator that has killed more in a short period of time than Castro could have ever imagined killing throughout his entire duration. Holy shit, God forbid that the Cuban people have a brief moment. Dude, she's a politician who's a child of Cuban refugees. Chances are she grew up hearing about the plantation they left behind. It's disgusting, man. It's disgusting. She's like, anyone who tells you we're easing up on the sanctions and the embargo on Cuba, normalizing relationships with Cuba, is just saying that because they want to turn it back into a fucking hotel destination and a fucking plantation. That's it. That's what they want.
To go to Havana, and they negotiated with the Castros 2 things. Number 1, to light up again this spy post called Lourdes, where the Russians can intercept every military communication that we have, because remember that Havana is 90 miles away from Miami, the city that I represent in Congress. And not only that, the Russians are now willing to pay the Cubans to fix and revamp their airports, their ports, and use them, obviously, for military purposes down the line. So while Russia is doing this despicable act against the Ukrainians, they have been penetrating Cuba since the last couple of years. And it's paying off because Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua are with Vladimir Putin in this war. But it's not only Cuba, it's Venezuela, which is even worse. I'm not sure if you know that.
Nothing leaked, bro. Nothing leaked. It's just the friends list. Here, let's run it back. I couldn't pay attention to what she was saying.
Since the last couple of years, and it's paying off because Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua are with Vladimir Putin in this war. But it's not only Cuba, it's Venezuela, which is even worse. I'm not sure if you know that this weekend, Juan Gonzalez, who is the National Security Council advisor, is in Caracas negotiating with...
Yeah, we should literally just...
Nicolas Maduro, because the Biden administration has come up with the idea, since we're going to probably shut off oil from Russia, now we're going to buy it from the Venezuelans. So we are punishing one tyrant.
Oh no, that would be devastating if we allowed Venezuela to utilize their fucking natural resources. Wow, it would be so bad. I would lose my mind if that were to happen. It's disgusting that we get to speak like this about other countries. We starve out the rest of the planet. And then we literally have our politicians cackle like hyenas on television to justify that starvation. How is that appropriate?
In order to benefit another. But you know why? What's really underpinning all this situation is the fact that the Marxists are part of the Democratic Party, and they are not allowing Biden to do what is morally correct from this country, which is to help people that want to be free.
All right, speaking of freedom, what can the U.S. do with respect to Cuba to fan the flame of freedom in that country? What can and should we be doing to incent the Cuban people who want
to fan the flames of freedom in that country? What can we do? Yeah, keep funding the National Endowment for Democracy so they can go and like pay Cuban rappers or some shit. Yeah, do the Lin, dude. Oh my God. By the way, everything I'm saying is 100% true. The American government, the American State Department, actually had multiple different plans, of course, other than the hundreds of attempts on Castro's life. All failed, obviously. But they had other hilariously pathetic attempts, like buying a rap group, basically, to create rap songs about Cuba Libertad, away from the horrifying, communist administration, communist government. And I love that because it's like so liberal to think, yeah, no, what we can do is do a Lin-Manuel Miranda. Like, we'll have a Lin-Manuel Miranda in Cuba and everybody will listen to that fucking rap music, and then they'll turn around and their opinions will change immediately. They will all hate the Cuban government.
Want to be free.
Oh, thank you. There's one thing that the Biden administration could do, which is to empower the Cuban people to come out on the streets again and shout whatever thing they want to, which is the same thing they did in July 11th of last year. Cubans want to be free, and we need to give them...
Dude, there were bigger protests for the government than anti-government, dude. What happened, dude? Remember those protests? What happened to all of those incredibly important conversations that we were having on this platform? It was hilarious that nothing came of that, remember? It's so funny. All of those people that cared about that stuff a lot, that said that was the most important thing to do at the time, is to liberate Cuba by fucking, I don't know, drone striking it or whatever, or by tweeting Cuba Libertad. What happened to all that? Which, by the way, the protests against the government were fucking minuscule, and then the government did what they always fucking do, which is bring out their biggest supporters to go take the fucking streets and demonstrate as a counter-protest. And that was ironically, that was literally the footage that Fox News and so many other places used to show how much support, to show how little support the government had. And they were literally showing footage where the protests were, they were flying like fucking the revolution flags. Anyway.
One thing, leadership and connectivity.
No, I don't.
I myself have spoken with the State Department many times, asking them, please give the Cubans the same thing that we're trying to give the Ukrainians, connectivity, internet. Because once the Cuban regime turns off the internet, like they did with the Ukrainians, the Cubans will know, those who are on the street being brutalized by the repressive apparatus, they will know that at least the rest of the world is watching what they want to do. That's the first thing, connectivity. And number two, sending the message to Raul Castro that we are not.
She doesn't mean internet. She means the fake Twitter that the CIA also tried to make in Cuba, which also failed spectacularly. Again, look it up. Real thing. They tried to make like a fucking CIA Twitter in Cuba so they could... Dude, we are the dumbest fucking country on the planet. I swear to God. I don't know how the fuck we have been able to brutalize everybody and like run this shit for as long as we have.
We, the United States, we're not going to allow military personnel. We're not going to allow for the Russians to be paying for anything in Cuba, and that we want to make sure that Putin doesn't have an ally in the Castros. But we're not doing that with Venezuela, with Nicaragua, and with Cuba.
All right, Congresswoman, you're in the minority in the House, at least for now. Is there any sense that the Democrats in the House, and they run the show, are putting pressure on Biden to get tougher on Russia, whether it's in Ukraine or whether it's in Cuba? Is there pressure coming from the House?
Are you fucking stupid? Normalizing relationships with Cuba is literally being tough on Russia. Lifting the oil sanctions on Venezuela is actually a part of the tough on Russia policy, so they can actually fucking, you know, turn around and institute some kind of energy sanctions without taking a haircut on the fucking profits for Shell. That's it. The idea that this is like something that we're only now allowing is so disgusting to me. It is so morally abhorrent. I cannot stress this enough, dude. Our government is full of vulturous scumbags, some of which have the worst haircut on the planet, like Trey Gowdy, and others who are able to fucking cackle like this on television and screech and basically fantasize about continuing the subjugation that we have placed these people under for the crime of living under an administration that has historically wanted to fight back against imperialist Western capitalist nations.
Democrats, because that's who he listens to.
No, unfortunately, because as you know, there is a part of the Democratic Party that believes that this country is bad and that Marxism is the right ideology. And unfortunately, I always tell my colleagues that they have drank the Kool-Aid, that they do not what democratic socialism means. Anything that has to do with socialism, if not ask the Ukrainians, my friend Victoria Spark, who is the only Ukrainian on the floor, we know, we Cubans, my parents, my ancestors. So that is why the Biden administration has not been able to be more forceful against Vladimir Putin, against the Castros, or against the...
When she says my ancestors were anti-communist, understand that she's literally saying, like, I owned slaves. My ancestors owned slaves. Sure, there are plenty of Cubans, second-generation Cubans or whatever. Well, not second-generation, but first-generation Cubans that don't like the current administration, don't like the economic situation in Cuba. Not every single fucking Cuban that hates Castro is a direct descendant of slave owners, obviously. I'll give him that. But when she says ancestors... okay, with her entire chest, understand that the historic anti-communists in Cuba were, a fan of the dictatorship before the regime change and the revolution.
Maduro regime. I'm telling you, one of his advisors is right now in Caracas negotiating. So may the Lord help this country, but we know that that influence that Biden is surrounded by is nefarious for the future of America.
Well, thank you, Congresswoman, for keeping your eye on all the different spots, South America, Cuba, Ukraine. Can't wait to have you back on. Thank you for joining us on the Sunday night.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe.
Insane.